It's been interesting times in Queensland's vegetable growing sector, with a state and federal government-backed project encouraging farmers to embrace the power of information through precision agriculture. The project has seen a handful of growers across the state use advanced weighing, monitoring and surveying technology to grow better crops. John Taylor reports.
Growing vegetables can be simple. Plant them, and life most often finds a way. Growing crops commercially is a far more complicated business. On Darren Zunker's sweet potato farm, things are changing.
Precision agriculture is just fine-tuning your farming, that's all it's doing. Instead of wasting fertilisers, instead of spraying too much chemical, it's just making sure that you're putting the right applications of these chemicals and fertilisers on at the right time.
Darren's one of 10 farmers that have taken part in a $2.5 million project funded by Queensland's Agriculture Department and the federal government in the major vegetable growing areas of the state. Ian Layden, in the white hat, leads horticultural innovation for the Queensland government and says the project is aimed to promote and develop the adoption of precision agricultural technology to improve crop performance.
They're very high input systems in terms of mechanisation, in terms of fertilisers, chemicals, but also high labour. It's not easy to go and find suitable land and water to grow that. So, and we also knew that the growers had spent a lot of money in getting into controlled traffic or auto steer technology.
Controlled traffic systems ensure there are permanent tracks through paddocks for machinery to drive on, helped by GPS-guided steering, so productive soil isn't damaged. So with margins tightening, this project is about squeezing the value out of what growers have got.
Exactly right. We don't want to see yield and quality sort of left in the paddock, so to speak. So we're trying to maximise the returns out of each individual block. So not just the whole farm, each individual block needs to be, I guess, pulling its weight. And we don't want the good areas of blocks subsidising the poor areas.
Australia's soils aren't the best, but what's lacking in quality is made up for in quantity. Even so, Queensland's horticulture sector contributes nearly $2.5 billion a year to the state's economy and supplies more than 30% of Australia's fresh fruit and vegetables. But the thinking has been that technology that's already used on much larger cotton and wheat farms could be useful for veggie growers. So with the cooperation of a small group of farmers from Queensland's far north to the southeast, the project used high-tech equipment, expertise and connections in a bid to prove it. Darren Zunker's sweet potato farm in Bundaberg was one of the test zones. Sweet potato are harvested here all year round, and in preparation, the leafy green tops are mulched in advance. Then, just before they're pulled out of the ground, his team of mostly backpacker workers sweeps through.
So what we're doing here is we're just pulling our tops off. A sweet potato's got a very vigorous vine on top. So what we do is we mulch it off about a week before, and then we just pull the tops before harvesting, just to save a bit of damage on through the harvester. Otherwise the boys, they skin them a bit. So basically what we do now is we'll pull these first this morning. This morning we're going to harvest about 8 rows of sweet potato, which equates to about 45 bins.
He's selective. The ground is littered with waste sweet potatoes.
Well, they're unmarketable.
Right.
See rat damage.
Uh-huh.
Because they've been in the ground so long, you get a build-up of vermin. And there's been a bit of a few weeds in that there, because your weeds keep growing and your sweet potatoes don't through winter, see? I think too small or too skinny.
And what happens to these? They just get ploughed back into the ground? Or?
Yeah, they'll go back into the ground, yeah.
But with new precision technology costing about $8,000, Darren Zunker will know pretty much instantly how many good sweet potatoes he's getting and from exactly where in this block.
This is our yield monitor.
Yeah.
is on our machine here on the secondary elevator.
And its job is to
weigh our sweet potatoes as they're coming over the elevator to give us a yield monitoring. So we can monitor our sweet potatoes as they're going in the bins, which gives us data that for our weight.
How often does it take a measurement?
Every 2 seconds. It'll take measurement on weight. So it's very accurate. Like I said, we've got issues with mud, so we've overcome that. And yeah, it's very accurate now.
Slowly and steadily, the sweet potatoes are liberated from the soil. The harvester was designed by Darren Zunker and his son. Crop is sorted and weighed as it's moved into bins. Early on in the project, Darren discovered a lot more dirt was being carried back to the shed than he thought. More than 1.5 tonnes just on one day. Technology in the cabin reveals a lot of details about what has just occurred.
Hey Darren, how you going?
Yeah, good, Steve.
How's the yield going?
Yeah, good. Yep.
Okay,
Good
so
yields
we've got a
at the
full
block.
map up here on the display.
Mm.
Got some quite high yielding trends there through the middle of the field there.
Mm.
The whole field's probably averaging, that 80-odd thousand kilos per hectare.
Yep, very happy.
All right, and your loads here, mate, so load 31 was the last load that you've pulled in?
Yep. Yeah, well, Steve, today's harvest was 18,800 kilos. Yesterday was a little bit better, so today's harvest is a little bit light, as we can see on the screen.
In southeast Queensland's Fassifern Valley, Ed Windley has been farming since 2005. He grows carrots and onions in the winter and corn and beans in the summer. Crop uniformity is very important to him, and that's been an important outcome for his involvement in the project.
The particular type of vegetable growing that we do in terms of, say, the corn and beans and carrots, like they're planted on a certain day with the anticipation that they're going to be harvested on a certain day. You know, that's 6 days a week, so that we can harvest 6 days a week, so that you've got fresh produce going into stores consistently. And you just can't wait for the poorer areas in the paddock to catch up to the good areas, so that they can all be harvested at the same time. It just, you know, that's so our way of dealing with that is to try and get the poorer areas to catch or keep up with the better areas, and then your uniformity will be better and your average return will be better consequently.
This crop of sweet corn was planted in September, and it's the first planted after a careful examination of the block and treatment with precision technology. So for you, why is this paddock interesting?
It's probably been the worst performing paddock on the farm for a number of years now, for a range of reasons, but partly because it's at the bottom of the farm. It's the wettest part of the farm, and it's the block that got most heavily laser levelled to try and create some improved drainage, which has been an issue in the past. And yeah, the laser levelling creates cut and fill areas that perform very differently from each other. And
so it was bad, and now what do you think it is now?
I haven't seen it look as good as this in the time we've been here, in the 10 years we've been here, I suppose. So
why? What's the difference?
I think you've been able to treat the areas that need extra assistance at the right level of input without overdoing some of the bits that don't need it as much. So the crop uniformity is vastly improved.
This is the technology that was used. A tractor-mounted crop sensing machine called a green seeker that emits infrared and near-infrared light. It measures the amount of light reflected as an indicator of plant health. The higher the reading, the healthier everything is. It can find pest and disease problems and a lack of nitrogen, revealing straight away if something needs to be done. After soil testing samples, the block was mapped into zones, requiring different amounts of lime, gypsum and fertiliser. And looking at what happened on another farm, a variable rate spreader ensures the right amount goes only where it's needed. Whereas before you just would have, every place would have got basically the same.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in some areas it wouldn't have been enough, and in some areas it would have been too much. So it's sort of the best of both worlds, I suppose, in that regard.
And if we look here on this map, this shows the variability that existed at the time on the block itself, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah, exactly, yeah. And you can see that the red areas were the cut areas, and they were tended to be the areas that waterlogged and were,
Red is less productive.
Yeah,
Okay.
in terms of an NDVI image, that's right.
And so what you're after was changing the colour more to be sort of green to blue, and uniformity.
Yeah.
And that's what you think now that you have.
Yeah, I think that it's, like I said, it's hard to prove that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how visually it looks to me. Everything tasseled and silked on the same day, so that's a pretty good indication that you're not having something there's not a whole heap of variability in there when that's happening.
Where the project has also come in handy has been in working out how best to use different machines from different companies.
The DAF guys have really helped us bring it all together. Now, there's a lot of things going on and that take a bit of help in figuring out what's going on and then how to deal with it, I suppose. And in the hustle and bustle of you trying to farm, you don't necessarily always get time to do that, to pull it all together. Yeah.
Perhaps the surprising thing is that a lot of this technology isn't actually new. It's just that it's new to horticulture. Project leader Ian Layden thinks maybe farmers thought there wasn't much variability on their blocks to justify precision technology.
And I guess to some extent we've sort of at least debunked that.
And that can mean big differences in many attributes, including yield.
In some cases we found 30% variability within block.
30%?
20 to 30%, but 28 was an example we found in sweet potato.
At first, sweet potato grower Darren Zunker was sceptical that precision technology would tell him anything useful.
Honestly, I didn't think there was much in it. How are we going to weigh a sweet potato? It's got mud on it, how we can get consistency. But once the project got up and running and we started to get the project running and putting weigh cells on the harvester, it all started to come together.
So that's the farm, and we were harvesting, Darren, just here this morning.
But the most important innovation was the use of an electromagnetic soil survey, or EM for short, which for about $40 a hectare examined his soils.
The EM is the core. That's what I found, that the EM was telling me a lot of things that I never knew.
So I went and did a couple of trial blocks for him, and once I presented the data, he was most surprised about the variability through his farm. And since then, he's made sure that we've mapped every square inch of his property.
This is how variable his farm is, broken up into colours. The blue areas indicate a high apparent electrical conductivity reading, meaning there could be too much salt, water or clay.
And that's what happened at Boundary Block this year when we did the trial on Darren's property, was that we found as the conductivity went up, the yield came down. And when we interrogated that, we found it was a problem with moisture, or water on, water off.
Okay, so for instance then perhaps the areas that are blue, they were the ones that were the least productive when
could be the least productive because sweet potatoes don't like wet feet. And as you can see there, the path of the water.
Technology can even simulate how rain will flow across a paddock. And once spotted, problems can be addressed.
At the moment, we're planting probably 3/4 of that block.
Yes.
But we have filled in that area with soil to bring down our moisture, just so we don't shed water.
Yeah.
If that does not work, we'll probably go into soakage trenches.
It'll be what happens here on a new block Darren Zunker's purchased that'll be interesting to watch over the next few years. EM revealed a lot of variability, and you can see the red soil running into the black.
So our variable rate...
With his agronomist, he's taken proactive steps ahead of planting. They've introduced a variable rate spread of soil conditioners and fertiliser over the land, so just the right areas get what they need. Waste not, want not.
So see by that map how it's turned out, the difference there in that zone on this knob.
Yeah.
So we'll put the rate slightly different here because that pH difference.
This variable rate applicator worked very well.
And Simon, do you reckon this is the future for horticulture then in Queensland?
Oh, I think so. We've always some technology might take a while to get adapted, but it might get adapted in a different way to what initially we thought too. But no, the variable rate technology, I think we're definitely seeing benefits from it.
These are only a few farmers in a much bigger industry, and the project winds up soon. But the hope is that this is only the beginning.
I think we'll see dealers, equipment consultants, precision ag consultants really sort of take that forward into horticulture. We've provided, I guess, a really good starting point.